Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 9th of May. We'll scroll through some numbers right here first of all. Wasn't on too much yesterday for videoing that my sinuses with the springtime here. All the pollination getting a little bit inflamed for me, but doing a little better today. So hopefully I'll get a chance to get on there. Something like a little allergy medication to help improve things. And we can see that there's been some improvement in the readings here. I mean, this is not as dire red as we were looking at before. And actually, if we look at the chart here, we can see rising steel, nice. Green above the white, looking good. We had the red move above as well. And at that point, you had a little dip in the cyan as well. So those were all a bit of positives. It didn't do a whole lot because, again, we weren't expecting it to do a whole lot at this particular point. Needs to see now the red break above into a new zone. So far, we've got to start with cyan rising, which is going to be a little bit to the negative side of things. So, again, not expecting a whole lot. Still more on the positive side, though, than negative. So I'm not expecting that any dip isn't going to be taken care of unless we see some kind of major collapse of the red or green at this particular point. Not happening. So that's not bad from an S&P standpoint. NASDAQ is not as attractive. I mean, you had the steel moving up, which was somewhat helpful, but with the cyan above zero as well as rising, not good, and green continuing to fade. NASDAQ is still kind of trying to shake it all out. Could be close to an opportunity. So again, you have to look at intraday on that one, but that's not looking as positive. Dow looking a little bit better. In fact, I put in a little bifractal here. What's the upside target on this one? Can I get it over there? Orange target 16,675. So that's not bad. That's 200 and something points there. No objection to that. But you have green moving above, red now moved above white, steel is above. All you need now is just a dip of your cyan for it to tick off a little bit. So more positive from the Dow and the S&P, and less so from the NASDAQ. But not ugly in any way, shape, or form. And, you know, again, we talked about this without gold showing a spark. Potential for the market to hold on and do just fine is good. You can see there's a clear negative from that crossover there. X, interestingly enough, still quite a bit of a spread, just sparks above. Again, selling out of the money put here, somewhere well in the 25 range is a little aggressive, but still doable at this point. I'd also put in an orange dot with a 2635 target, but nice way to get some premium when you're still at a awkward stage here. You need to see the green really spark up and that cyan fade dramatically to punch it, but opportunity to collect some premium. CLF, we knew that with the deep red that was likely to come back to retrace. Sure enough, did that. We noticed it right here at the peak, in fact, right where it split on the little mini spider right here, and boom, doing just that. There it is. 78-minute chart showed it really clearly when it happened right here on the peak high. In fact, that was probably almost within a couple of cents. The close 33. What was the high? 36, 37. So within a nickel of the peak of the move, and it's still not done. AIG, we could see that we were in the safety zones. People think that that's just crazy talk, but sure enough, even with the dip, came right back up to it. So it was free money for those who could understand what was taking place. Interesting, it's the number one of the buy. You're just at the green above the red. But all in all, not bad. I mean, it was a nice reversal off of the pivot below the red line from the pop there. Boom, it's already back up to where it was before. And like we said about WLT, it was looking ugly when the sell, well, never gave the buy from these particular points, came up, split on the pivot right up here, and has cascaded lower since. Interesting spot right here. It's already met the dip below, still in deep red. Did not get a crossover. Again, you know, this is amazing. You follow back on here. No crossovers with the green above the cyan, and in fact got right to it. Did not happen. But as soon as it does spark above, that could actually be an interesting power move. From the buy setup that I liked down here, it was pretty straightforward. Then we ended up with a little bit more of a scary setup as it crossed right at this particular point. And you had the nice momentum though from the red white, and it stayed above. But once the steel here dipped below the cyan, that was early warning because it dipped below not only the cyan but it also dipped below the red, and then didn't take but another bar or two for the red to dip below as you came across. Cyan was above and cascade, and a little bit late on collecting its profits from this one because it doesn't recognize the DOC crossover yet, but getting close with it, and soon it will. Let's take a look at the intraday. It was a decent intraday. When last I left you, I had showed you that erroneous long setup that I had, and literally right after completing the report, shot up, got me an opportunity to get out, and then I also recognized the short setup there and caught that for a little bit. It got a little choppy in between it, but then ultimately gave the nice breakdown going accordingly, but then went really positive with the red not dipping down too low, pivoted back up. Early buy signals within the red. Was a little premature, but then started to break out right there once it was clear, and it was a nice little ride. And then you had a couple, and then it really started to get too lofty here with the red moving above, and then you made your second set of lower pivots on this little increase. And once you broke down here, I looked for the green below the cyan, right about there, and then the pivot on the red for confirmation makes it really easy. And boy, did it cascade from there. And then it gave you the deep red, letting you know that none of this was good from a buy standpoint. And it trailed one lower. Then right down here, you created your first lower pivot, and then this one got right above that pivot right here, and started to create a teeny little buy. But you can see a huge move up on the readings and not a whole lot of move on the price. Means it's likely to get a bit overbought, particularly if it gets near the zero, and then you're likely to see potentially a nice little breakdown at that particular point. Otherwise, you're going to get way into the overbought category. So, am I looking for a whole lot of movement on any move coming forward? Not particularly, unless this eases off without much dip in price, and then you have a reset of it, because otherwise you're going to get like this overdone, and then you make your lower peaks, and it gets ugly from there usually. Take a look at some of the alerts. We had a big switch on the a lot of the alert stocks. Apple had made its nice move, had crossed over. We weren't expecting a huge ton of decline with it. Had been fighting back and forth, just retracing a couple of those positive extremes. It's still way low, which is definitely something you want to be looking at from a short situation, because shorting in this particular spot not always going to be the greatest return for you. In this case, I'd be looking for long setups, and then situations right here where you get a break back of the green going above. Looks like that potential there for an upside, and that could be the positive aspect for the S&P. Apple tends to have that impact, but some of these uglier ones, Amazon, no change in the ugly there. Google we also had as ugly from before. No real shock on that one, performing exactly as expected. Netflix, a little bit mixed because it gave that de facto cross, even though the red's falling a little bit, it still improve. Kind of a mixed bag. I would still think that it's probably a little bit more to the long side now that it's come down to the retrace. PCLN had been ugly, ugly, ugly. We saw the deep red had stayed there, and yeah, no shock with that. In fact, dipping below the red line again, that's really not good. So it's quite a move from our first short indications back over here. What value is that up there? The 1350 range down to 1100. Ouch. You didn't have the right indicators. Tesla, yeah, we had not liked any of this. Reaffirmed the sell signal back over here when it broke down. Steel dipped. It was all told with your early signal of the lower pivots from the steel, and then it just continued to follow through. Twitter. They had declared the bottom in Twitter, that it was all over from a decline standpoint. And well, hey, so far they're right on the money with that, but it's still within a sell signal that you had a little pop up there. It's not looking terrific. Going on to Baidu, bit in the sell signal. No buy from that one yet, even though held up fairly decent. And you'll get that within short setups. The bulls, they try and fight it back. Sometimes it seems scary. But you just have to go with what the real signal is. FAS was interesting because it given a buy over here, and then it kept going, and steel pivoted up. And sure enough, off that, it's doing quite nicely, not overbought either. So it's kind of divergent to the rest of the signals that we're seeing from the overall market. Not as positive, but clearly financials looking good. Well, of course, that's a triple ETF. Facebook, no, sell signals from all of that. So not a whole lot of change in some of these. They have the potential for turning pretty easily. I mean, the green staying above the red would not take much for that to pivot to the upside. Steel was already maintaining a pivot to the upside. So a lot of these are, in what I call that transition period where they've eased off and they're looking for, additional monies to come in. Clearly, some people are taking gains in their sell in May go away, and it's clearly having an impact. So worth paying attention to and being a bit more diligent, I think, in watching your positions, because there are some times where everything's just looking good and it's all set, but we don't really have that clear indication from the market at this point. It seems to be in a bit of flux, and we just have to wade through it until we get really defined clear signals. And I know it's never fun to wait for those kind of things, but we can see that there's ones that you can play in between, and you just have to go one step at a time. As always, though, look for me on private Twitter feed, StockTwits. Trade well.